Rebecca, you're most welcome. You're most welcome, Hakim.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're most welcome, Bernard.
Hi, Mohammed Madam.
Yes, good afternoon, Bernard. You're most welcome.
Good afternoon.
Yes, you're all welcome. I trust you can unmute yourselves where possible, and then we can discuss. You're all most welcome. It is 2 o'clock, and we would love to start on time. So, Mr. Hakim, you're most welcome. Rebecca, you're most welcome. Deo, David, Jackson, and Juliet, you're all most welcome. Can we do a test run? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Loud and
And
clear.
I think, colleagues, in a short time, we will be starting. Our colleagues who will join later, I know they might be on their way, but once again, you are all most welcome to our initial webinar. I was trying to play you some music, but the system has failed me. But I hope there is some very good music of Rema talking about it, Wero Wero. So I thought I would play it, but it seems it is not working out the way I wished. All the same, you are most welcome to today's webinar. So as we wait for our colleagues to join in shortly, Caroline, you're most welcome. You're all most welcome.
And maybe you might have been playing the Ugandan video on food safety that we shot over 8 years ago over Lake Victoria.
Sorry?
It's on the codex. You might have played the Ugandan video on food safety,
Yeah.
which we shot over 7 years ago on Lake Victoria.
Okay.
So it's on the codex website. If we had the rights to share,
Let me
I
give
know it
them
is
to you.
I could share that video as we wait for a few other colleagues to join.
Let me give them to you, the right to share. Okay, Dale, thank you for that information. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Asha, you have got the co-host. Can you admit people as I work on sharing the rights?
The function is on the icon of share screen. So if you go on the side, you'll find some buttons.
Yes.
You click there, then allow multiple participants to share.
Yeah. Yeah, I've already allowed. Do you see it on your screen?
I can see that. So let me try to share the video.
Okay, please.
Of
great.
I don't know if it is showing.
It is showing.
So,
it says double click. There we go. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether the sound is coming out. I'll share the link in the chat room.
Okay,
maybe
please.
if it's not, if the sound is not good, but you will see the video. Everyone should be able to share that this is Lake Victoria. And
yeah, it's rolling. Unfortunately, the sound is not yet out, but it is rolling. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. Now that we have hit a mark of 25, I think we can start as our other colleagues join us. You are all most welcome. You are all most welcome. May we all mute ourselves? Yeah. Okay, you are all most welcome, colleagues, to our webinar, the first of its kind and one of the many in the series of different activities. And I hope you can all hear me. Can we affirm by the sign of thumbs up? Go to your, all you can rate. Great. Great. It's nice that you are all hearing. Okay. So colleagues, you are most welcome to our first in series of the Food Safety Media League. It is the first of its kind by consent. And I would like to thank you all, colleagues from West Nile, Northern Uganda, Eastern Uganda, Western, Southern, and Central Uganda. You are all welcome to first in our series, and I would like to thank all colleagues who have helped in coordinating the different players coming on board. It's a great honor to have you here. So colleagues, very briefly as we start, we are going to run a 2-hour session, and our program is going to stand as we are going to have welcoming remarks, as you all saw them in the invitation. Then thereafter, having the welcoming remarks, we are going to have a brief keynote from our colleague, Mr. Hakim Mufumbiro from UNBS, and who is also the coordinator for CC Africa, that is the Codex Committee for Africa. At the Bureau, National Bureau of Standards, Mr. Hakim, he is the head of the division, and he is the head of the division of standards for food and agriculture. And also, like I was telling you, he is the coordinator for the Codex Committee, Coordinating Committee for Africa. So we are honored to have him at our initial webinar. So colleagues, the month of June, globally, there are many days that we commemorate. But on 7th June, we commemorate a day of World Food Safety Day. And this month's theme was about prepare for the unexpected. But all these at Consent, we have been running a number of activities where we started with engagements in Western Uganda, Fort Portal, Kabarole Kasese. In Mbale, we held webinar radio programs and other engagements here in Central. And now we thought that to spice it all, we would need to have a webinar with the media who have not had the opportunity to link up with all the other initiatives. So we thought that an outfit of the Food Safety Media League would be something good to bring together the media teams from all the regions. Where we can't meet physically, we would meet online and share with you the different aspects that concern food safety. You will appreciate that food safety is all our concern, is all us all's concern, but we need to do that through awareness. And we said, or we thought at Consent, the Fourth Estate would be the best partner that we have to do this, because the Fourth Estate, as in the media and journalists, you are the ears, the eyes, and the mouth of society. So if we share with you aspects that concern food safety, you'll be in a position to look into your environment in which you operate and identify the different food safety challenges. And that's why we thought of the theme, rethinking the role of the media in guaranteeing food safety for consumer protection. You'll all appreciate that we are all consumers, but when we are playing a professional role, you are journalists. And you will find that Mr. Hakim is a food scientist. You'll find that Mr. Wambale Bernard, who is going to talk to us, he is a nutritionist by background. So each one of us has got their different professions, but we are all consumers in one way or another. So we thought that coming up with the theme of rethinking the role of the media would be something very key. And this is why we have brought you together, so that we can start discussing on aspects to do with food safety. So colleagues, while we are introducing the topic and welcoming you to this first in the series of the Food Safety Media League, there is something that we were deliberating on, and we were saying that all along we know 2 + 2 = 4, but today we are saying 2 + 2 = 5. And the question is, we have to rethink, why does 2 + 2 today is equaling 5 with regards of food safety issues? So this is why we are bringing you together, so that we can discourse on that puzzle by rethinking the media role in guaranteeing food safety for consumer protection. And the formula we are using today is 2 + 2 = 5. So our discussions are going to revolve there as why does it equal to 5? Because we have to prepare for the unexpected. Many things coming into our society that we do not expect, and they do happen. So colleagues, once again, you're most welcome. From wherever you are, I can look that you are in from West Nile, you are in from Gulu or Northern Uganda, you are in from Eastern Uganda, right away from Mbale onto all other areas in Mbale, Teso, Kumi area, Soroti, So colleagues, you're all most welcome. Then you come into central and western Uganda, where you're in from Fort Portal, Kabarore, Kasese, and beyond. So you are all most welcome. So having given you those few highlights and welcoming remarks, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Hakim. He has a busy schedule, so he's going to share with us as our guest the issues to do with the food safety, looking at standards and seeing to it how best can we play a role as the media, and then sharing with us the continental initiatives. So Mr. Hakim, you are most welcome to share with us aspects to do with standards, working for food safety, and how we can, and how you can advise to where we can rethink as the role of the media. So Mr. Hakim, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Henry, for the introduction. I'm hoping clear, audibly clear. If you can hear me, that is good.
Yes, we
because
can.
I'm currently on the road in Jinja, so you'll excuse me if the network does not support the session. But I'm happy to join you today. And as introduced, I work at UNBS. I've been working at UNBS for the last 15 years, majorly developing standards in the area of food and agriculture. So anything to do with the standards in any area of food or agriculture, I've been there and I've been at the center of developing now close to 1,200 standards that we have in Uganda in the area of food and agriculture. But additionally, I participate in or I lead the work in the African Organization for Standardization as the chairperson of the Standards Management Committee. I was previously the chair of the East African Standards Committee, Standards Management Committee, and currently coordinating the Codex affairs in Africa. Codex is essentially, Codex equals food safety, to make it simplistic and probably for the journalists to be able to understand what it means. So as invited in this session, I'm happy that I'm able to share some remarks, some key highlights, some key concepts. I'll be sharing some messages that I think are important for the media, and I'll end. I'll be sharing just one slide that will be important for the media to take home. But for now, let me first share some background, some principles that might be useful to probably set the scene and create a little bit of context before we get into the other discussions that are specific. So in terms of food safety, to understand it very well, is that if the food is not safe, you are probably not alive yourself, because consumption of unsafe food essentially means that you're on the risk of either staying alive or getting sick and towards death. That is essentially what food safety means, although it may not be understood within that context because of the nature of our environment, the nature of our systems here, and probably it has not been given that attention in terms of criticality. Additionally, if you look at the example of Uganda, there's a very heavy focus on food security. Food security meaning production, productivity of food, and that is where probably the Ministry of Agriculture comes in very key. But you'll probably, most of you will agree with me that regardless of how you produce the food, as long as the food is not safe, you actually don't have any food at all. So that is why it is extremely very critical that as the government probably focuses on food safety, on production and increasing productivity, they do not forget that even if you produce a lot of coffee, a lot of bags of coffee, as long as the coffee has heavy metals or has ochratoxin A or has any food safety issues, the coffee will not sell out. I know that, for example, staying with coffee, Henry recalls that one of our biggest markets for Robusta coffee is, for example, Sudan, Khartoum. And there is a time 4 years ago when Sudan, Khartoum put up some requests to Uganda to test some of our coffee for some radioactive material. And that put the entire coffee sector in panic because most of our Robusta coffee goes there. But the issue they were looking for was essentially a food safety issue. So it is only at those times when the government focuses on food safety, when the market is probably going away. I'll not go very far. From Sudan, Khartoum, I'll come to Sudan, South Sudan, Juba, which is probably still fresh on our minds. South Sudan wakes up in the morning and says all the maize coming from Uganda or the maize flour has aflatoxins in quotes, and I'm using in quotes because there was no evidence to demonstrate that there was actually aflatoxin in the maize that was going there. But because it is a government, if it puts in place any measure, the measure stands, whether it is right or it's not right. All governments are sovereign. So, and the issues that normally impact on trade and by extension, the socio-economic development of the country relate with majorly sanitary and phytosanitary issues, most especially animal health, plant health issues, as well as food safety. So if we're going to trade anywhere in Uganda, outside of Uganda, the EAC, in COMESA, in the African continent through the AFCTA, it's not possible to trade until we're actually able to close some of the gaps that relate with food safety, animal health, and plant health. And if the emphasis is not put there, we are likely not ever going to trade. And many other examples that I would give that relate with the food safety and trade as an issue. So what this comes to tell us that food is to humans, and but at the same time can be dangerous. So we need to focus on some of the outbreaks that we see to be able to secure the public. As Henry has indicated, every one of us is a consumer. I might be talking passionately about food safety today, but I shouldn't forget that when I get to my home, I'm actually going to be consuming food. Or if I go to the restaurant by the roadside at my workplace, I should actually be able to consume safe food. So I'm both a regulator, but at the same time, I'm a heavy consumer of the same food. So I'm very keen on ensuring that the systems operate and the systems work to ensure that the food that we consume is particularly safe. On the other side, to also mention that of course Uganda in the past has had a brand of unsafe food that has resulted in registering significant cases of cholera and typhoid within the population. This has been reported heavily in the media, and probably to thank the media for mainly bringing out most of these issues, but to also at the same time re-echo the need to only not report about food safety issues when we have incidents, but also report about the benefits of ensuring that the food is safe. So we shouldn't only be having very big media headlines because someone has done research and identified that there is arsenic in rice, like the most recent research that was done by Public Health in Makerere, and that made newspaper headlines. But if it is something about positive about how we are ensuring that the food is safe, that doesn't actually make a newspaper headline. So we need to be balanced in terms of our ability to provide the necessary information to the public with regards to food safety. Additionally, to also indicate that all of us who are here, thankfully that we went through the COVID-19 pandemic, you recall that at that time, there was a very big emphasis on a lot of innovations, which required that food must be able to move from one part of the country. For example, you recall when the president was locking down, I was saying the markets can remain open, the food will be moving, the trucks that are moving the food will be open. The reason was that people will not survive without the food. But at the same time, because they were hit by the pandemic, it would be a double burden if the food was also not safe. So there was a lot of emphasis that was placed on food safety during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially when most of the online businesses were booming and were coming up. A lot of people who started doing Katale online business or Jumia or so on, and importation and exportation of food became heavily online, which was not a domain that some of us who are regulators were used to. We're used to getting in the faces of the people produce the food and telling them what to do. While online, food will exchange hands between the buyer and seller without even the regulator having any interface. So in those circumstances, the safety of the food remains extremely very critical and central. So as we are still in June, which is essentially World Food Safety Month, although the day is 7th of June, the whole of June we normally celebrate food safety to raise awareness or make people aware of food safety issues. But we also need to demonstrate how to prevent illness through food safety. And the illness can be at a household level, in our homes, in our kitchens, or it could be at the industrial level. Unfortunately, the focus that, for example, we have in Uganda and by extension most of the countries in Africa, most of the emphasis is actually put at the industrial level, or where the regulators are. And people forget that actually you can fall sick by not keeping the basic tenets of the 5 keys to food hygiene in your own home, keeping it clean, keeping it safe, separating of raw food and finished products, ensuring safe temperatures if you're cooking the food, and related aspects. So those are the fundamental principles which underpin us being safe right from where we are, where we stay, where we work, and probably how we live. Additionally, it's also important to discuss collaborative approaches to improve food safety across sectors. And I believe a forum like this, a Food Safety Media League or a food safety a discussion with the media is extremely very important because we need to build and harness this collaboration that continue to grow. And ultimately, we need to promote solutions and ways of being more food safe. So those are the main elements which we think are important as we celebrate World Food Safety Day within the month of June. Of course, this year the theme has been about preparing for the unexpected. So the unexpected could be a disaster, it could be an outbreak, it could be a recall of contaminated products by a manufacturer, it could be poor hygiene and handling in local markets. I don't know where you media people, I don't know where us, the colleagues from the media normally buy their food from. But for example, myself, I buy food from Kalere, or if I'm in town, I go to Nakasero market. I'm not sure whether you are very happy with the hygiene and handling of food in our local markets, or what you would call local markets. If you walk across the car market or the market in Busega or Kalere or Nakasero, what do you take from how people actually handle and present the food? That's where it starts from, and not thinking that there's a regulator somewhere who is actually going to make those changes. So we need to start from where the real action makes the necessary impact or contribution. Additionally, it could be food poisoning at a local restaurant. It could be a power outage at home. Many of us experience power outages. So if you have a power outage, you have products in your fridge, or they're not kept at the necessary temperatures, you're now getting into the risk zone of where the products could go bad in storage. So these are all potential risks that could pose unsafe food and can evolve from being a local problem to an international emergency, regional international emergency. So it's important that we look at them within that perspective. The good thing is it's not all lost on us. Uganda has one of the best emergency preparedness measures that are led by the Minister of Health, the Public Health Laboratory, as well as other actors, stakeholders within the food control system. And we have been credited for having robust systems for either detecting, reporting, or ensuring that we prevent aggravated occurrences of most of these food safety emergencies. So our system has been good. It continues to grow. There are many things which need to be done, and I'll be sharing those as I conclude my remarks, but to appreciate that there's actually some work that has gone into that perspective, especially led by the Minister of Health and the Public Health Department. So, in effect, from where we sit, I believe that what is important in terms of food safety emergency situations, as well as exchange of information during emergencies. What some of the key messages that we need to pass as probably the media, or as probably practitioners, regulators, civil society, and related actors, that we need to be prepared. So preparedness is key and central and critical. If you don't prepare, you're likely going to be caught off guard. And if you're caught off guard and it's a food safety issue, the repercussions are severe, because it borders on life and death. It's also important to share information rapidly with everyone, and media outlets are one of the key channels through which information can be rapidly shared. In the age of digital media, in the age of social media, we have seen that this is where most of the information exchange becomes extremely critical. But the information which is shared should be correct information, should be accurate, should be well-researched, should be evidence-based, and not probably sensational, not emotional. Otherwise, then if it is not backed up by sound evidence, then it could actually provide misinformation, which is a problem. And you might have heard from the recent population that was held. The preliminary results released yesterday. Over 70% of our population is below 30 years, which means that most of them live and stay on probably using of digital media, using of social media. This is what they have grown into. This is what their generation is about. So sharing of information through those platforms is extremely important, but the information has to be accurate, balanced, and well-researched. Additionally, it's important, if it was a government, to set up robust food safety management plans that will help in protecting consumers and ultimately the entire population, because this is what gives a foundation of ensuring that food safety is enshrined in all our practices, as well as the cultural norms that exist in the countryside. At the same time, another key message that I would recommend would be multi-sectoral collaboration. And this is one of them that I hinted on earlier, that as stakeholders, we all have a role to play. We all have different roles. We all need to play that role. And as the mantra in food safety goes, food safety is everyone's business. So whether you're in the media, or you're a producer, you're a trader, you're someone who is transporting goods, you're someone who is vending goods, you actually have a role to play. You're a government, you have a role to play. Civil society, you have a role to play. The only difficulty or challenge that we have been seeing over time is that many people think that the government is there to protect them with regard to food safety. In fact, the primary responsibility of food safety lies with the people who are actually handling, and exchanging the food, not the government. Although the government has a very critical role, as I will be sharing in the slide, which I'll be giving some messages for the media. Additionally, it's important as one of the key messages to ensure effective communication and confidence in the food supply chain, because everyone needs to be comforted that the food that you're actually getting is safe at any level. We need to have a decisive action of food operators, as well as ensuring that everyone is a risk manager, from individuals to families, to communities, to businesses, to government. Everyone is a risk manager. And by risk manager, it means you actually have the decision to make within your hands, but you should actually have the information to empower you to make that decision. And the role of ensuring that you have that information is through you and myself, who is part of the government, to ensure that we pass on that information to all the consumers in the country to be able to partake of their effective role within the food control system in the country. So as I conclude, the colleagues, because I note that I had 20 minutes to make this presentation, I'll then share just quickly One example, which you may probably relate with, or have had before, and I hope it is sharing on your screen. If it is not, kindly let me know. I'll try to just put it in slideshow.
It is sharing.
Okay, so, and the reason I'm sharing this is to re-echo the issue of the management of food safety in the country. And I'm emphasizing this because it is from us who pass out the message to the public who should be the cardinal anchors of some of these messages out to the public. If we don't pass this appropriate message to the public will never know. They'll probably even be pointing fingers in the wrong direction. So it is critical that as a media fraternity, we empower ourselves with the appropriate status on how the food safety functioning system is functioning in the country, and where we probably need to place a lot of emphasis. So from this presentation, the way the food safety system is structured in Uganda, it is anchored on majorly 5 areas. The first one being policy and laws or regulatory framework, which is the setting of the right policies and laws. Every one of us knows that we have a Food and Drugs Act, which was set up in 1959. I'm not sure there's anyone on the call who was born by that time, but to put it simply, the law is archaic. It has never been operationalized. We have focused on drugs. That's why there's National Drug Authority. So the government is more interested in curing people than preventing them from getting sick. That is the main message that you should actually be able to put across. Because by eating safe, you're actually preventing yourself from getting sick. So, but the message that, or the principle that you probably get from the government is that, well, you can get sick because we actually have a robust organization that regulates drugs. So you'll go to the hospital and get cured. It's not the right way to do things. Food safety demands that we inculcate a preventive approach in most of the activities that we are able to do, whether from the home or to the community or to the industry, to the workplace. Everywhere there should actually be a preventive approach. Most of the things that we do that relate to food safety. So in that perspective, it is still a very big weak link in terms of regulatory framework for food safety in the country. And to summarize it very well, and I'll put it squarely, such that probably anyone who has never heard it in this call and is part of the media, at present, there is no single authority in Uganda that is mandated for food safety. And I'll probably repeat it for purposes of emphasis. There is no single agency that you will point the finger to that is mandated for food safety, because the law that provides for food safety, which is the Food and Drugs Act, has never operationalized the food element in the Food and Drugs Act. So, and because of that, we don't have any single agency that is mandated for food safety. That is why we have been having a lot of discussions almost for the last 20 years to establish a single agency, which we have not managed to do. Maif has now taken up the mantle through a cabinet decision. We are about to probably get a Food and Agriculture Authority. Hopefully it will come. We are waiting for it. Those efforts used to be in the Ministry of Health for 15 years. We couldn't agree. And now that should tell you about the priority of food safety within the government. And that's where we should be able to speak from, because I know that we have our voices here, and we should actually be able to propel these voices to the powers that be, using all our different platforms and putting exactly what the situation is. If we put exactly how the situation is, then the situation will most likely change. Otherwise, if we scat around the issues and say now we have institution and things like that, the situation will never change. So we need to be blunt, we need to be blank and clear with the messaging, so that everyone knows that we are probably on God's mercy with regards to food safety in Uganda. I'll probably put it as such. So on the laws part or regulatory framework, we're not doing well. Where we're doing well and where UNBS has a role is now in the other elements. Standard setting. I told you I've already developed 1,200 standards that provide for food safety related aspects, and we coordinate that process of management of standards as well as certification. Inspectorate. You all very know that UNBS inspects goods which come into the country, although we don't inspect those that go out of the country. In fact, it's not our mandate to inspect products which are going out of the country. Although the government says that one of these strategies is export-oriented economy without an appropriate body that actually regulates exports. So we do inspection of the foods that come in. We also do inspections in form of surveillance to ensure that the food that which is sold on the market meets the requirements. We have accredited laboratories. If you have not visited UNDS at head office in Belgrade, you should come and visit. We have one of the biggest labs in East and Central Africa regarding the testing of food safety elements in terms of range and scope. So and it's almost a center of excellence in East and Central Africa. But we also have other private laboratories that contribute to the laboratory infrastructure in the country. We talk about Chemifa, St. Michael's Laboratory, and so many others, including government labs, government analytical laboratory, UV, and many others that actually provide services for food safety. And the last element, or the fifth element, is information sharing. And with regards to the laws, this is the other weakest link in our food control system, which I believe, as people who are in the media space, we should be concerned that we actually probably either not doing enough, or we need to devise means on how we should actually be contributing to the food safety control system in the country. So the information sharing part is totally very weak, because the other organizations or the ministries and departments of agents and agents of government that do control do not invest a lot of resources in information dissemination, because it is not it's not an attractive element within government in terms of funding, because all the departments in government have a role in food safety, UCDA, DTA, and many others do not invest a lot of money in providing information to the public, devising tools that can be used to passing information to the public. We have been able to start that work, but it has not really gotten to a level where we think that is sufficient. So this is the final call that I'll make in this session. That as the media, our role is clearly cut out in the food control system in the country. Let us take up that role. It is still a very big task to play. We should be able to collaborate with the government, with the civil society, with many other organizations to fill this space. And I believe a forum like this would be able to rethink and devise mechanisms of how we can contribute to the effective food control system in the country to ensure that all the different elements of a functional and robust food control system are operational. So this is my final message, and I hope the colleagues here from the media will receive this, discuss, be able to devise innovative approaches on how we can fill this void that exists. As the government, as UNDS, we are happy to collaborate. We're happy to work with the media. We work very well with the media in terms of messaging out most of these food safety related aspects, and we welcome all initiatives, all efforts that will help us to get the right information to the consumers, to empower them to make the right decisions and ensure that the food that they eat is safe, so that they can be able to secure their future as we like. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share in this session. I hope I didn't take a lot of time, but if it did, I apologize. And as I indicated earlier to Henry and the colleagues, in Ginger, near the bridge, I'm on the road. I'm heading out to Eastern Uganda, so further Eastern Uganda and Eastern Uganda. So I will be around maybe for the next 10 minutes, but I'll ask that I excuse myself after that, and hopefully I will be able to further engage on other sessions, as Henry said. This is just a start, and we can devise many other ways of continuing the discussion as required. Thank you very much, and wish us well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hakim. That was great. And colleagues, I didn't know that you are risk managers. So colleagues, all of you who are on this call, you are risk managers, and that means you have to report about the different risks right from your home until you reach the national level. So Mr. Hakim has shared with us right from the national level going into regional and international. He has raised many other things, but what I wanted to start with with his chart and the flow of food safety, the aspect of information sharing, and the aspect of every one of us who is on this call, whatever the profession is, we are risk managers and we have a role to play with regards to food safety. And the other aspect of the aspects of food safety are sectoral related. So colleagues, I think you'll find that this is a tall order for us all, and we will need to play a major role. So that Mr. Hakim is leaving. So anybody who has got a question, I've seen some in the chat. There will be questions to look into. But anybody who has a quick one, you can raise your hand. Raise the icon below has a raising hand. You can raise your hand and you can ask your question very quickly. Any risk manager who has a question for Mr. Hakim, the Chief Risk Manager? But as people assimilate what you have shared with them, I would like to thank you very, very much. You have led us into the different parts that we have to play, and laying an emphasis that the media plays a major role. And okay, Mr. Hakim, please go ahead. I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Henry. I think before I leave, I saw some questions in the chat.
Yes.
If you allow, I will probably speak to those.
Okay.
I think I see two.
Yes, please, go
one
ahead.
from Eva Namugabi, who is talking about laxity by the regulator to come up with aggressive measures for those found abusing at the standards. I think with this perspective, we have made a lot of inroads, and including the 2013 review of the UNBS Act that put up very punitive measures with regard to those who are actually not able to meet the standards. You might have been reading some of the information that we post out there. Products that don't meet standards are destroyed. Maybe we are not been publishing most of these extensively, which is, as I put in my last slide, an information sharing issue, because it's supposed to show the public that if something is substandard, it should actually be able to be destroyed. So we destroy several products that don't meet the standards, although I'll agree that probably we are not providing this information as quite adequate as possible. So we have built up that process. Additionally, we have enhanced our surveillance system. Those of us, those who have been following UNBS used to be known as a Kampala-based regulator. Right now, we're heavily present in 4 regions, in Western Uganda, in Barara, in Bale, in Hulu, and soon coming West Nile and Hoima, where we have fully functional regional offices. So these are fully functioning in terms of all the services that UNBS offers. This is the first time where we are decentralizing most of our services to get close to where the action is. The last question which I have is from Anyanzo David Anyanzo, who is indicating that on March 5th, 2021, Kenya came on to ban importation of maize from Uganda. What did UNBS do, and what exactly was the problem with that maize compared to other countries? I can tell you for a fact that I know that I don't know whether it's okay. It is recording. The truth of the matter is that the ban was heavily political. It had absolutely nothing to do with the quality and safety of the maize. The same applies to the milk, which was stopped from selling in Kenya. It had nothing to do with the quality and safety of the milk. Most of the bans that you see from Kenya are heavily politically motivated. They don't have anything to do with the safety of the products. And normally Kenya does so when they have a bumper harvest of maize in Western Kenya. They'll ensure that all the maize that comes from Uganda never gets to their market. When they have a drought, they don't even check the maize. They'll actually just keep on letting in everything. So to answer you, David, clearly, that there was nothing, there was no problem with the maize. We have a very functional inspection system for the maize that is actually now going out of the country, and all the maize is tested to ensure that it meets the Uganda standards. Maize and maize flour are among now the biggest products which are certified by UNBS, following the experience we had during COVID-19, where some of the maize flour did not meet aflatoxin standards. But over time, there's been several improvements. But the ban, which was from Kenya, was heavily political, other than a food safety issue. So I hope I could put this clearly, so that people are able to get. And the reason I say it was heavily political, because there was no evidence that was given from Kenya to show that the maize actually had any quality or safety issues. They didn't test anything. They only just issued out a letter, and only claims, not really backed by evidence. The same with South Sudan. South Sudan doesn't even have capacity to test the maize or the maize flour, but it was only put out because they had some challenges with the entry of products into their country. So these are many times the issues, and that's why I indicated earlier that as the media, we need to be truthful, we need to be accurate, we need to be evidence-based. By the time we issue a big headline, it has to be based on well-researched information and has to be evidence enough to be able to withstand any nature of test. So thank you very much. And I see many questions coming in. Unfortunately, I may not have time to respond to them, but I believe the recording will be available.
Yeah.
If there are any other comments which are required to be answered, I've shared my email. It's an open invitation. If you require any additional input, kindly feel free. Send me a WhatsApp. I've shared my number as well, or see an email. I should be able to provide you with a response, including Isetaskopian Metadio, who is talking about agrochemicals use, which is a burden and which is a very big problem, not only in Uganda, but actually in Africa. In fact, 4 years ago, Africa identified the 4 areas as the main food safety issues in the continent: pesticide residues in food, contaminants in food, food fraud, and microbial resistance. Those are the main 4 critical food safety issues, which are still grappling with not only in Uganda but in the continent as well. So the issue of agrochemicals is multifaceted. I think, as Henry indicated, from the regulation of how the agrochemicals are registered, to the application in terms of good agricultural practices, which is the role of the Ministry of Agriculture, to the role that UNBS plays of now checking that the residues which remain in the food do not exceed the maximum requirements which are there. This is the kind of system that we actually want to do. So it is from the farm to the fork, or from the farm to the plate. Everyone across that food chain has a role to play. Although many times as UNBS, we accept to play the entire role, although it's extremely very difficult to play. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hakim. Now, Mr. Hakim Fumbiro will leave you go, and what we will do is that all of the colleagues, we will generate a report, and some of those aspects, like Mr. Hakim has put it in the chat, you can pick up his contact. You can see his contact and his WhatsApp number, so that you can be in touch. Like I put it earlier, and how Hakim shared it with us. We are all risk managers, and from today, we take him as our chief risk manager, who will be able to share with us information with regards to food safety or food and agriculture standards, as he's the head of the division. And he will be also in position to share with us aspects to do with standards, or from a regional perspective, as he chairs the committee that passes or admits standards at the ASO, the Africa Organization for Standardization. So you'll find that today we are greatly honored to have a Ugandan colleague who also plays a role at the regional and continental and global level to share with us at our curtain riser, first in the series, the Food Safety Media League, where we are rethinking the role of the media in food safety, guaranteeing food safety for consumer protection. So, Mr. Hakim, we put our hands together to thank you very much for the time and the sharing, and we look forward to continuously engaging with you. The Food Safety Media League webinars are going to be monthly, so we would like to continuously lead all the media into standards issues. And the media, once we empower you, you'll be in position also to participate by bringing up those issues that will contribute to standards development at the national, regional, and continental level, and even the global level. So we thank you very much, Mr. Hakim, for the time, and I would allow you to go and do other duties of serving the nation in Eastern Uganda. It is a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Henry, and I greet you all. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, colleagues, with that good curtain riser as our key guest, Mr. Hakim has shared with us quite a great deal, and I know all of us, we have picked up a number of things, and the aspect of which was critical is sharing of information. And colleagues, at this point in time, given that we have 1 hour and 25 minutes left, I would like to introduce our next colleague who is going to share. We'll be discussing at the end. So I would like to, thank you very much, Busiku. So ladies and gentlemen, as you enter, there is a link to the form, a registration form. It is going to be very critical for us to register. There is a link. I wish you could register yourselves, or if you don't do that, please register in the chat. Go into the chat box like Busiku has done. Please type in your name, your email, and your telephone number. But if it would be the greatest if you could open up the link and you fill in the registration form. In case it is a challenge, then you can also drop your contacts in the chat. But please go to the link in the chat box and click on and fill in the registration form. So with that, I would like to welcome our next speaker, and who will give us the rethinking of the role of the media. You recall I told you earlier that today the formula we are using is 2 + 2 equals 5. So we are going to rethink our role as the media. Why is 2 + 2 equaling 5? And all after being told we are risk managers, that is another thing to rethink. So colleagues, at this point in time, I would like to ask Mr. Bernard Bwambale to upload and start making your presentation. Mr. Bernard Bwambale, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Henry. Colleagues, I want to welcome you to this webinar. My name is Bernard, and I'm going to take us through the presentation of the day, trying to reflect on food safety, but also sharing our perspective on food safety, but also trying to show you what is making our food contaminated. And later on, we shall rethink together the role of media in assuring food safety. So I work here at Consent. I'm the head of programs, and glad to catch up with all of you. So just to dive into the presentation, we shall be looking at a few things. I'll introduce to you what food safety is, Some of you were able to access the tool, the link, were able to see some bit of questions around food safety. So I'll be able to quickly take you through the introduction to food safety. I will also ensure that I share with you the food safety hazards. Just in case you failed the question in the pre-test, I hope you'll be able to handle it now later. And then we shall also look at the common practices that make food unsafe in our homes, in our communities, in the places of work, etc. And then lastly, we shall be looking at the role of the media in ensuring food safety. So basically, that is how short it is going to be. I know that we are running out of time, so we shall try to make sure that we catch up with the time. Okay, so diving into food safety. So we keep asking ourselves, what is this food safety thing we are talking about? What does it mean? Where did it come from? Etc. So quickly, when you're at your home or when you're at your workplace or when you are wherever you are, those simple actions that you do to make sure that your food is not contaminated along the value chain is basically what we call food safety. So food safety basically is that looking at the processes or the actions that you take along the food value chain, preferably from the production up to when the food is being consumed, to ensure that your food is not contaminated by different harmful substances or compounds. So basically, that is what we call food safety. So every time you hear someone talk about food safety, just know they're talking about what is being done to ensure that food is not contaminated with different substances that make it unsafe for human consumption. So basically, that is it. Now, we always say that when it is not safe, it is not food. So it is important that at any one point, you can forget anything from this show, but you shouldn't forget this. Whenever it is not safe, it ceases to be food. So if you're served with something, maybe you've gone for a wedding or a party or whatever, and then they serve something on the plate and they give it to you. As long as you realize that it is not safe, then what they have given you is actually not food. So at Consent, we say that when it is not safe, then it is not food. There's another scholar who, I got this from the GuluMed, one of the organizations, one of our partners. There's a colleague in academia who said that food, the food you eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine, or it can be the slowest form of poison. So as we are going to dive into the discussion, we need to know that actually food can be the best medicine we can use to treat or prevent disease. But if we don't handle it well, it can turn out to be a poison that is going to kill all of us. So as media people, it's very important that we keep reflecting on such kind of things. How are we using food as a powerful medicine that we can ever have? And also you can reflect on actually whether the food we have is still medicine or it has turned out to be something else. So we need to be careful that the food we have around us, every time you're going to eat food as a consumer, just think about whether that food is actually going to be your medicine or something that is preventing you from getting sick, or whether it is something that is going to kill you slowly. Now, let us dive into what we call food safety hazards. Now, what is a food safety hazard? Any agent that has the potential to pose a threat to your life or to your health, or that can cause illness, or something that is hazardous that comes in contact with food in order to make it contaminated is what we call a hazard. So a hazard is basically that, an agent that you put in food or that is, in contact with food to contaminate it is what we call a hazard. So I know that you must have seen this question somewhere too. So we're basically asking you what a food safety hazard is. So it is basically that agent that has the potential to pose a threat to human health or cause illness. So whenever a hazardous agent comes into contact with food, then it contaminates it. Now, food safety hazards are basically three. They are categorized into three. We have the biological food safety hazards. Now, biological safety hazards are basically the microorganisms that can actually cause disease. For example, if you have a virus in food, that is a biological food safety hazard. If you have a bacteria in food, then that is a food safety hazard, but under the biological. If you have a fungus in food, for example, you've been hearing about aflatoxins. Now, aflatoxins are fungus, so it falls under the biological food safety hazards. So any microorganism that can cause disease, but then it has been taken into food, it means it contaminated food. So that is under the biological food safety hazards. Now, away from the biological food safety hazards, we also have the chemical food safety hazards. Now, these ones are basically chemicals that are in food. Either they have gone into food by mistake or someone has actually put them there. Let us basically look at some bit of examples. You've heard over the years that there are some schools that will get paraffin and put it in the bins of students. That is a food safety issue. So it is a chemical in food. It is not supposed to be there, but it is there. So you can have paraffin in food for children in schools. You can imagine if a child has been taking paraffin for the last many years in school, someone is in boarding from P4 to P7, from senior 1 to senior 6, and someone is taking paraffin in the bins. So they have been eating chemicals. We can also think about chemicals. You've heard currently that there are some people who are using formalin. Formalin, which is a chemical compound we are using for treating bodies, human bodies that have died, just to preserve them. And someone picks the same chemical and puts it in meat or in milk. So it means that now that is a chemical compound that you've added in food. So it is a chemical contaminant. It's a food hazard, but in the chemical categorization. We have also seen in our fields out there when we're doing our research that many of the farmers do not know which chemicals to use. So we have seen farmers who are using, for example, glyphosate, what you call Roundup in your language, and the women are spraying it on maize to dry it. So it means that you're drying maize using a wrong chemical compound. We have also seen people who have mancozeb added on tomatoes in the market. So the tomatoes have already been harvested, but then someone is putting a chemical. So when you're talking about chemical food safety hazards, we are looking at all those different chemicals that people are actually wrongly using. We even have those who are using antibiotics. Let us say someone is using paracetamol or Panadol or aspirin in cooking beans, in cooking mulokoni, in cooking meat. All of those are part of the chemical hazards. And then also we have now the physical hazards. Now the physical hazards, we are basically talking about things that are foreign, that are not supposed to be in food. For example, they can serve you food and you find a cockroach in food. So a cockroach is not supposed to be there, but it is physically there. You can be able to see it. So those are physical hazards. You can have stones in food. So they serve you a plate of beans and then you choose stones. Or else you can find sand in the food. So every time you're chewing food and then you end up biting sand. There are also scenarios where we have seen hair in food. So you start imagining where the hair is coming from. Is the hair coming from the head? Is the hair coming from the armpits? Or the hair is coming from the private entities? I mean, depending on where the hair is coming from, you cannot tell. So all those are physical hazards in food. So ladies and gentlemen, whenever you hear about food safety hazards, start thinking about the biological, the chemical, and the physical. And also look at them as agents that are have the potential to actually contaminate the food. So those are the food safety hazards, ladies and gentlemen. Now, quickly, when you consume food that has hazards, you have different foodborne diseases that you're likely to suffer from. So those are the ones we call foodborne pathogens. So foodborne pathogens are basically disease-causing microorganisms that are transmitted in food. So for example, you eat food, but the food had bacteria like E. coli and others. So someone gets an illness. Now, we have different types of diseases that come from this kind of thing. We have those that we call foodborne infections. Now, here you have to master this. When you eat food and the food has live bacteria, the bacteria is live, or you have food and this food has live viruses. So they are still living microorganisms, but they're in food. So you suffer from what we call a foodborne infection. So an infection can only come when you eat food that is having live microorganisms. Now, in situations where the microorganisms have started excreting waste, so just like human beings, you know, we can sweat, we can urinate, we can go to the toilet, etc. Even these microorganisms, when they stay longer in food, they start excreting. So maybe in a simple language, I would say they start urinating, they start sweating, they start defecating, and etc. So they release waste. So the waste from those microorganisms is what we call toxins. Now in the science, we call them toxins. So when you eat food containing toxins, then you suffer from something called food intoxication. So it is different from food infection. Food infection, you have eaten live microorganisms. Food intoxication, you've eaten food that has toxins. So those are the different things that you need to know. Now, people who have challenges with either infection or intoxication, they usually have some bit of signs and symptoms. So many people suffer from diarrhea, some people suffer from nausea. Now, nausea is a state where someone wants to vomit, but there's nothing coming out. So that is nausea. Now, some people get stomach aches. Now, here you're not diureting, but you have the stomach is paining, but you're not going out, like you're not diureting. And then other people vomit, other people lose appetite, some people have headache, and others have body weaknesses. So all these are signs and symptoms of foodborne infections. They could also be related to other diseases. Therefore, please avoid having self-medication because you have a headache and then you take on Panadol. It could be a result of a foodborne infection. So you need to treat the cause. Now, so now we look at some figures when it comes to statistics. WHO, the World Health Organization, has indicated that over 200 diseases are associated with food contamination. So out of the diseases in the world, more than 200 diseases of them are actually related to contaminated food. So whenever you eat contaminated food, or every time you have eaten food that has microorganisms or whatever, there's a likelihood that you actually have disease. Now, there are 200 diseases and above that are related with consumption of food that has either bacteria or viruses or fungus or any other parasites, but also chemicals in the food. Now, it's also said that every year, 600 million people in the world fall ill or get sick because of eating contaminated food. So 600 million people are the ones who fall sick. But out of those, we also know that 420,000 people die just because they've eaten wrong food. That is 420,000. Those are the ones who die of the 600 million people who get sick. Remember that the 600 million people are those that we know who have come to the hospitals, but there are those who have not. So many people actually get sick and many people die because they've eaten contaminated food. Now in Uganda, the local context, we know that 1.3 million Ugandans every year fall ill after eating contaminated food, which is about 14% of the total illnesses that we treat in Uganda. Now, children under the age of 5, pregnant women, women who are lactating, the elderly people, and also people who have chronic diseases are more prone to suffering from foodborne infections. This is also information that we have from the World Health Organization, but also from Ministry of Health. So pregnant women, we have to take care that they actually don't get foodborne issues because they may have miscarriages or they may end up having children die before the time of delivery. Elderly persons and children, of course, their immunity is a little bit low. And so whenever they have an infection, it will always be very, very bad on to them. And also people who are on medications, who are always on medications, hypertensive, diabetic patients, they are always at risk of contracting these diseases. Now, let us look at now the practices that are contaminating food. Remember that food can get contaminated at different levels along the value chain, either at the farm, at home, during storage, during drying the food, or even at the time of cooking. So at all those points, food can get contaminated if not well handled. But also we know that all food value chain actors are responsible for contaminating our food. So it's not one single person. It can be the farmer, it can be the aggregator, it can be you, the consumer, it can be someone selling the food. So let us now look at the different hazards, going into the details of one by one, and I want to quickly run through the chemicals, chemical use. Many of the farmers, of course, are using chemicals just because they want to solve a problem. They want to solve issues around pests, and of course, diseases in animals and plants. And that's why we have many farmers using all these chemicals. Now, there are many practices that expose, I tried to put them here as the different ways in which chemicals end up in our food. One of them is farmers end up using highly hazardous pesticides. Others are not adhering to the recommended dosage, withdrawal periods. They say, please, you spray and then you can harvest after 14 days, but someone sprays now and someone else is already harvesting behind them. They tell a farmer that, please, mix 200 grams in 3 jerrycans of water. The farmer gets 500 grams and mixes in 1 jerrycan. So non-adherence to recommended dosage and withdrawal periods is one of the risk factors to having these chemicals in our food. But also the mixing rates are failing many of the farmers. Instead of mixing maybe 200 grams, they end up mixing 1,000 grams, etc. But also others over apply. So instead of applying a chemical maybe once in 2 weeks, the farmer wants to apply every single day. So all those risk factors to the high dosage and to the challenges of chemicals. But also others deliberately put chemicals wrongly in food. For example, you find someone getting formalin or formaldehyde, which is a chemical for treating human bodies that are dead, and then someone puts it in milk, in meat. That is deliberate. Some of them put them, deliberately to sustain the milk for longer. We have also seen people deliberately putting rat poison or rodent poison in beans as preservatives. All those actually cause a lot of challenges. Now, quickly, I want to show you some of the tutorials now. I'm done with the theoretical bit of it. So I want us to now appreciate the practices under chemicals that I've just been talking about. If you just look at this photo here, you realize that this gentleman is carrying a pump. But this pump here, you can see that when he was putting his chemical, it had to overflow. So when it overflew, you realize that the chemical went outside the container. But the gentleman is dressed in a shirt which is torn at the back. Every time he's sweating, the chemical enters his skin, and at the end of the day, this gentleman is likely to suffer some bit of skin cancer or related complications. If you look at the second photo there, the brother is spraying, but I don't know whether they call it half naked. He's not in a shirt, but he's spraying a chemical. Every time chemicals are bouncing on vegetables, they bounce back on his skin. If you look at the third photo, the gentleman is spraying, I don't know whether they're lemons or oranges, but if you look at the height of the sprayer, you realize that the chemical bounces on the plant and then bounces back to his face. So you realize that such farmers end up inhaling chemicals. Now here, the chemical is not yet in the food. The chemical is directly affecting the health of the person who is actually spraying. So we need to advise our farmers under what circumstances they have to spray, and when they have to spray, what gadgets have to be put on for them to be able to be secure at the time of spraying. So we've been doing researches and we asked ourselves the question, could these chemicals then be in the food? So that is why we came up with a lot of researches. For now, I will share with you only this. I don't want to take you into the statistics, but we are confirming that actually you can have chemicals live in the food. If you just look at those tomatoes, and which are now common in our markets, you find that tomatoes have a white-like substance on them, which is actually a chemical, and people are using it to keep the tomato longer. But when you look at my brother down there, he's already consuming the tomato, which is already having the chemical. So at the end of the day, many people eat chemicals unknowingly in the food. And so we realize that those chemicals are actually present in the food. And we have a lot of work to sensitize our masses on what to do with such tomatoes. So for example, when you see tomatoes of this nature, we are recommending that you need to wash them with hot water, so that you kind of reduce the chemical composition on the tomato. But also, we want now to discourage you from eating raw tomatoes because of the contamination levels with chemicals. It would be better that you just cook them. We know that tomatoes which are raw would be more nutritious, but for challenges to do with chemicals, you'd rather cook them than actually eating them raw in this case. So we recommend that you actually clean the tomatoes with hot water. The moment you start seeing that they have chemicals, we already tested that. The chemicals can go a little bit lower, but also preferably you would actually peel them so that you have a substantial amount of chemical that is lost when you peel. So those are recommendations that we made in this research. We asked ourselves the second question, whether these chemicals could be in our water. And we answered it well. I don't want also to take you into a lot of statistics. This could be the best answer I can give for you now. If you look at the first photo we have here, when a colleague is spraying his spinach, he has planted the spinach along the water source. So the chemical is not segregating the water from, the plants. What happens is that the colleague sprays and then the water is actually receiving the chemical directly. When you look at the downer version of the second photo there, you realize that the kids are already fetching the water, and the gentleman in the third photo is already consuming the water. So you see there's a lot of risk that our colleagues are causing to society, that actually people are drinking chemicals live from the chemicals that are being sprayed on the farms. But also we have a challenge that most of the farmers, after mixing, look at the most photo there, after they have mixed the chemicals in buckets, in bowels, and etc., they end up now washing those buckets back into the water. So they wash these buckets at the water source, and all that contaminates the food of the people. Now, shockingly is that all of us have been exposed to these chemicals, either directly or indirectly, through the food we are eating, through the water, through the air, etc. And that is why then we're supposed to sensitize our masses on how best chemicals can be handled. Now, this people who also cook food in polythene bags, actually, every time a polythene bag is heated, it emits chemical compounds which actually go into the food. I didn't want to take you into the science of why the polythene bags become bad, but maybe for purposes of you guys who are always sensitizing our masses, chemicals are used in making polythenes. So there are chemical compounds we call thins, which are actually used in making the polythene bags. So when you get one thin and you combine it with another and you combine it with another, and so you have the longer chain of thins, it is what gives you what we call a polythene. Just like you can say polygamy to mean many wives. So in science, we shall say polythenes when you have different things put together, and so you make a chain of what we call polythenes. So when you make a bag-like structure from polythenes, you make what we call now a polythene bag. So it's a bag-like structure that is made from polythenes. So every time you have now these polythenes and you put food in there, one of the disadvantages of polythenes is that when you put the polythene on fire or on heat, the polythenes start, the thins start becoming unstable, and so they get off from the chain and they start running out independently. So every time the polythene bag is on heat, the thins run off, and so they start escaping into the food. And these are chemicals. Now, the other truth about them is that they are carcinogenic, meaning that they are cancer-causing agents if at all they go to the human body in excessive amounts. So ladies and gentlemen, it's not proper for people to cook food in polythene bags. It can be one of the risk factors to the cancers that we have in Uganda. Also, we have seen in Uganda, but also in our neighboring countries, that there are some people who are already using transformer oil in preparation of food. So you see on the streets, a lot of chips, a lot of chapati, a lot of foodstuffs being prepared with transformer oil. Now, transformer oil is supposed to be for transformers, but people are using it in cookery of food, which is actually one of the compounds that is likely to actually be a carcinogenic compound in the next few years. So every time people are consuming transformer oil, it's actually affecting the body cells, and that could translate into cancers later in life. We have also seen people drying food on tarmac roads. Now, tarmac is made of tar, tar is a chemical compound. And we know very well that before they put tarmac on the road, the chemicals they use, they are first preheated. So you have what we call now incomplete combustion of those chemicals, like you heat them so that they can be able to stick on the road surface. Now, every time the sun is heating up, they start melting. And every time there is food on top of tarmac, you expect that actually you'll see a lot of tar going into the food. If it is cassava, if it is maize, then it can be consumed by consumers unknowingly in the food. And that can also be carcinogenic in the near future, meaning that every time we eat large amounts of food that were dried on tarmac roads, we risk death. So these are practices that actually contribute to chemical contamination. We have also seen this kind of stuff. You have maize, but on the tarmac road. This is not only a food safety issue, but also it is a road safety issue. So as we talk about road safety, we are also talking about food safety. So imagine this maize on a road surface. The whole lane and even the pedestrian way is all covered with maize. I mean, this is more suicidal to the consumers. We have also seen this, that some people are also processing posho from treated maize. So the maize which is treated, which is meant for planting, someone goes and makes posho out of them, and then they sell to consumers. If you look at that other photo there, I tried to indicate that you have a washing bay and then you have a water source beneath. So every time people are washing cars, their petroleum products, you have engine oil, you have, fuel, you have all those grease. So every time you're washing vehicles and you're washing them along the river banks, the water comes from your washed vehicles and goes back to the river, and the consumers are fetching the water and, they're drinking petroleum products. Assuming that this truck was actually carrying cement, so it means that you're washing the cement into the water body and then people are consuming it. So all of those contribute to the chemical contamination of the food. Now, let us look also at the physical hazards. Physical hazards, I tried to explain them a little bit earlier, that these are things that you can actually see in food, but they're not supposed to be there. They come along with people handling food wrongly. If you look at that first photo there, maybe we shall explore it a little bit later, but when people are drying food on rusted iron sheets, you find people, drying food on bare ground, you find people drying food the way they want. I mean, it's a lot of mess. So let us appreciate these photos, maybe looking at the physical contaminants. I should be able to finish in the next 10 minutes. Okay, so when you look at where they're processing food from, look at that kind of structure. Every time that machine is vibrating, the dust, the cobwebs, etc., they fall back into the food and people go and consume that kind of food. So you end up having food with a lot of, contaminants coming from, the processing plant. So we need to talk about these things until people can improve the status quo of where they are processing food from. So you find the machine has never been washed for the last 3 years or so. You find the walls of the processing unit have never been cleaned, and all this goes back to human food. Yeah, we have also seen people drying food on rusted iron sheets. If you look at those photos in your villages, I don't know whether you have this kind of environment where people have cassava, have maize, etc., being dried on top of rusted iron sheets. All this contaminates food. Yeah, so for us who eat chapati, of course, sometimes the brothers are tired and so they can be able to sleep over the chapati dough, and I mean, a lot of mess happening up there. Someone has phones, money, and other things placed on top of the dough that they're going to use to make chapati. But also when you look at now the sigiri or the charcoal stove and the flampen we are using, and then the guy has a dirty cloth, and then the cloth has never been washed for the whole year, but he's passing it on top of your, of your food, and you're watching. Unfortunately, a consumer is watching and even saying, "Oh, Dokonyero, be fast. I'm hungry. Please be fast." But also you're watching the cloth he's using. He last washed it like 1 year ago. So we need to be careful consumers. How do we encourage our consumers to take precautions when they're buying food? If you look at that, of course, what comes out is our beautiful party there. And then somehow there's a way it tastes very nicely. I mean, we need to know where we are getting our food. That is what we are communicating here. So how was the towel that produced this chapati? We need to be very, very careful every time you're buying this stuff. You who are informed, but also let us inform all other consumers to be keen whenever they're buying food on the streets or wherever they're buying it from. Now, there's also this interesting photo one time when one of our colleagues had bought very good food, well-packed food in a silver plate. And if you look at that photo, she's touching some bit of metallic substance, which was coming actually directly from the food that she had bought very expensively. So we need to be careful. Now, this is a physical hazard in the food. It's similar to finding hair in food or metals in food or beads or whatever in the food that people eat. And also another colleague bought food and then found flies. If you look at the second slide, the second photo there, these black spots were actually flies in the food. So we need to handle our food very carefully because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is us consuming it. What about where our people are actually selling the food from, where people are, maybe this introduces us to the biological hazards. Where are our people cooking food from? You see, the saucepans are very clean. They are using, banana leaves, etc. But in there, you just see that there is a runway. There is actually a drainage, a sewer, just opposite where people are cooking food from. This can harbor microorganisms, and this can make the consumers sick. Surprisingly, these women would come and serve food here, and they take it to the consumers, and this can cause trouble to the consumers. What about this kind of life where people are, tomatoes, oranges, and carrots just dumped anywhere and people are just busy picking them up? All these are food safety challenges that we have. What about people drying food on bare ground in taxi parks? You've seen people drying cassava in taxi parks, just like you see on this photo. All of these contaminate food with physical hazards. We've seen people drying food on bare ground. Someone has even a tarpaulin, but the tarpaulin is actually for covering food on bare ground. So there's a lot of mindset issues that come along. Someone would rather cover his maize against the rain than actually putting the maize on the tarpaulin. So if you realize this farmer actually has a tarpaulin, but the tarpaulin is meant for covering the food on the bare ground. So there are quite a number of interesting things in the villages there. We need to sensitize our people about this contamination. If you look at this other photo, appreciating the physical hazards we talked about, even men who have known that, well, we need to have a tarpaulin, but that is where they go for their discussion. They're able to stand in the food, even sometimes with gumboots, even sometimes with, that everything is in the food. And surprisingly, in Uganda, we don't eat a lot of cocoa, we don't eat a lot of coffee. But if you found how coffee is being handled in this country for export, my friend, you won't believe that coffee is being produced in Uganda. But the maize we eat, that is where the goats can play, that's where the men can go for a discussion, that's where, why? Because we're not prioritizing food safety of the food we eat, and we prioritize food safety of other people elsewhere for, What about the vehicles we use to pack food? There's a lot of dust. And the law is very clear that every time you're transporting food on a truck, it is supposed to be covered, but our people don't know that. Now you can imagine this truck carrying food for human beings, but this dust will keep on entering the food slowly. If you look at the second photo there was a wedding in this place, and all these vehicles passed on this maize. Now what you're seeing as white there is maize drying on the road, but there's a wedding in there. People are driving over the maize. I mean, all this is really something that we need to talk about. Now, in terms of biological hazards, these are basically bacteria and all this, but we needed also to go into what happens is that for us who have access to this food in the laboratories, it's very interesting that the food we have seen so far presents like the way you're seeing this photo when you put it on a microscope. When you put it on a microscopic view, you'll be able to see different forms of microorganisms that are actually in the food. And that's how it presents when you look at that pictorial there. But anyway, where do these come from? So when you look at the way people are slaughtering meat is slaughtered down on the floor. People are just slaughtering meat the way they want, gumboots or whatever, in weird places. So microorganisms can be there really. And these end up in our food. When you look at the gentleman in the next photo, water is food. So when you look at the way he's drinking the water, he assumes that he can filter the water. First of all, the water is in a very wrong jerrycan, which has not been washed for the last so many years. but the colleague thinks that he can clean that water by just passing it through a strainer on his body. Moreover, all those are challenges with mindset issues and food safety. What about the meat? If you just looked at this photo, the way this meat is where the meat is being slaughtered, if you can observe very well, it's just on bare ground. And how the colleagues are carrying it, I mean, it's a whole mess. So microorganisms will always come and attack this food because of the wrong environment where food is being sold. Ladies and gentlemen, we also know that milk, by law, we are not supposed to carry milk in a jerry can because the jerry can cannot be washed. So many times our farmers, our vendors are always using jerry cans for keeping the milk, for transporting the milk, and also how clean is the jerry can anyway. So we have a lot of challenges with food safety, and the microorganisms always love to stay there. If you look at this colleague in this photo, he's carrying milk, first of all, in wrong gadgets. He's carrying milk in jerry cans, which is a wrong practice. But also, when you look at this red-like stuff, this is a strainer. He's carrying it at the back of the jerry can. And I mean, he will drive or ride over this dusty road with this strainer. And at the end of the day, he comes to your home and then he puts that same strainer to strain your milk. I mean, it's a little bit tricky, but we need to talk about it. Where are they milking from? When you look at this cow, the elder is milking from wherever he's finding. This is already a weird place if you look at this. So, yeah, a lot of stuff. So when you look at the maize here, this is already attacked by aflatoxins, which are actually fungus. And we find our people getting this maize and they're putting it, of course, So what about the tomatoes? Where are we selling them from? You'll find a lot of food being sold in the market near garbage pits. Just look at that. You'll realize that this is a garbage heap, but that's where the tomatoes are being sold. What about food on bare ground? This can attract microorganisms to grow there. You find mangoes, you find lemon, you find watermelons, just drop down there and people are buying. What about our brothers who are selling on the roadside? I mean, brother is carrying this morning, and then everyone is coming, is touching, and they're not buying it. So you touch, you leave there. What if you visited the toilet? What happens? A lot of mess with our food system. So we need to do a lot of awareness on how food should be handled. What about the machines where we have people doing value addition? You realize that the colleague who is a father to many children probably is even stepping where he's pouring the food at the time of processing. I mean, it's a lot of mess, ladies and gentlemen, as we try to sensitize our masses. What about the bottles? Who is picking the bottles and where are they picking them from? And what are we using them for? You'll find that people are picking these bottles from waste bins and then they end up putting this kind of food in those bottles. So you can see that now we have a lot of bottles picked, running through the sewage trails, and then we go and just pack that. I want you to appreciate this photo. You can imagine this is a stony bottle, but the cover is for something else. I mean, a consumer cannot start buying something like this when we have the media team. We need to sensitize our masses about this. And probably as I come to the end, expiry dates. Food has expiry dates, but our consumers are aware that they have to read expiry dates and make decisions from expiry dates. If you look at this bread, the expiry date on it has never existed in the history of the world. It is on the 36th, the date of 21st is the manufacture date, but then expiry, you see, you even exceed the month. 31st, you go to 32nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and I mean, it has never been on the planet ever since. So it is a little bit tricky. So we need to empower people to be able to read the labels and understand them and make use of them and then make decisions. And of course, lastly, we have known that now in the news, they are saying that our food, specifically Ugandan maize, poses cancer risk to so many of our people and other foods, of course. So ladies and gentlemen, the reason we are talking about food safety, we cannot explore it, but there are 4 reasons. We want people not to fall sick, so preventing them from foodborne infections, but also improving the food and nutrition security. Remember, you cannot have food security without food safety. It is only when you have food safety that you can actually have food security. So it is the second reason we are emphasizing the need for food safety. But also we want to build your confidence as consumers that when you're going to buy something, be cognizant of what you're going to buy and ask yourself many questions. What happens after eating this food and etc. But also for purposes of international trade, you have heard that maize was rejected in Kenya, 600,000 tons. You have heard that 63 trucks were rejected in Sudan. We have also heard that Tanzania, Rwanda, and other countries have been rejecting our eggs, our milk, because our milk and other food items are contaminated with aflatoxins, but also they're not meeting the international standards. So we're talking about food safety so that we improve the international market and to have money, and then we build the consumer confidence, we improve the food security and prevent foodborne infections. And now, I think this is my last slide. I tried to share with you some of the impact of food safety in Uganda. One, it increases the disease burden. So cancers, allergens, and other diseases come in. And of course, the government has to spend a lot of money to treat those diseases, irrespective of the fact that we don't have a lot of monies. So diseases will come, they have always been here, and the rate at which the cancers are higher, which we cannot treat, is very high, and many people end up dying. And of course, some of them get cancers and they have to be sent to outside countries. And when they go outside countries, people sell their land, their property, and etc. And poverty starts setting in. And also, research has shown that food safety issues can lead to failure of growth by children. Children fail to grow, and so stunted growth goes on an increase. But also it affects the socioeconomic development in Uganda, just like I've mentioned, when food is banned, they are not transporting it, etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, so what is your role now? I didn't want to give you the answers here. I wanted us to discuss it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and answer. We answer this question together. Now, from the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, have you been able to recognize what you can do as a media personality? Have you been able to realize that there is something that you have not done and that yet you feel you should actually do it? And if yes, kindly share with us in the chat your thoughts about the role of media in food safety, looking at what we've been sharing up there. So have you been able to recognize what you can do as a media personnel that you haven't been doing, but you feel that you can do it? And if yes, kindly share with us your thoughts about your role, the role of media in food safety. And secondly, what will you start doing as a media personnel to improve food safety in your area and country at large? You as a media personnel, what is it that you think you will start doing? Probably you've not been doing it, but you think you'll start doing to improve food safety in your area or the country at large? And lastly, how best do you feel we should improve the webinar session next time? So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. And I hope we have learned something small. Apologies, the presentation was longer, but I hope we have picked something. Thank you so much. And over to you, Henry.
Thank you very much, Bernard. This has been a great sharing. And I trust colleagues you've learned a thing or two. And this is something very good for us. The question is, have you added 2 + 2 = 5 from the presentation? Are you the risk managers, as earlier you are informed? So with that, I would like to, I've seen many questions in the chat, but I would like to remind you colleagues, with the remaining time, please do register so that we get your details, get the link and register. It is very important. So colleagues, I don't know if our colleague from Gulu Med is there to share with us in 5 minutes. Is he on?
Yes, he should be on.
Okay,
yes, I'm
please
on.
Unmute yourself and get onto, and please share with us some of the innovations. We wanted to bring in innovations that are there. So Frederick, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Frederick Mugisha. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
Yes, please, we are.
Go ahead.
You're very clear.
We
You're
can
clear.
hear you.
Proceed.
Yes. My name is Frederick Mugisha from Guru Med. When you hear Guru Med, it is a company that is that we decided to start in Gulu, that has an innovation which I would like to share with you a little bit. I hope you're seeing my slide. So GuruMed is a socially responsible enterprise that aims to revolutionize the food packing industry in Uganda. As you can see here, I just started with this this page and the photo, which speaks loud. That at the background you can see someone who was holding food and it fell down. You see the plate has cracked and there is I think a sweet potato and the matoke. So if now there are two things here to learn. Number one, if this plate did not break and no one was seeing, this lady or gentleman would have picked these things and continued to the consumer. That's one. Number two, there is this calls for a solution, which Guru made found that it can provide a solution. I want to first thank the presenters and the organizers of this webinar for thinking about us, GuruMed, being a for-profit organization, but you have really thought of what we could contribute on the social side of contributing to stop, to prevent this the challenge that has been happening in Uganda of food safety. And I want to quote my colleague from UNBS who said a very important point, that food safety is everyone's business and everyone should have a role to play, and it needs a multi-sectorial collaboration. So being the organizers of this webinar to think about GuruMed, really were hitting on the name for this point. So for us, we thought of, okay, of course we have a lot of other products that we do, but this specific product is designed to help the food handlers, the food packers, to have safe food. We have really thought of this, and I think it can really help the population in food handling. Well, we have there are very many reasons why we chose Guru of other districts. Guru, we found we had an opportunity of the ladies, mostly women, who are trained after the war, with the Kony War. They were trained on tailoring. So we took we took our skill there. We oriented them. They were very quick to learn. Now we are even exporting some of our products. But to come back to this point of this specific product, we started with big organizations like this one, Glovo. I think you have ever seen it around. We even have supplied to Jumia Foods. We have supplied these bags to even to Cafe Javas, some of them. But now something trickled our mind, and we saw we are looking at the elite, the high class, and forgetting that the biggest population of food eaters, of the people who eat food, or the people who transport food, they are the smallholder businesses, the small restaurants and markets and what. So that's why we said no. Let us come up with a product that cuts across, that is really affordable. And from our own budget, we started campaigns sponsored by us. Now that one will come back to the point of rethinking the role of media in guaranteeing food safety in Uganda. When we started our campaign, the media would not collaborate very well with the media. We just went. It's just we did not bring the media on board. But at least what we did, if it had really, if the media had taken it outside to the world, maybe people, it would have been important, or made a footprint. But it is always, we always learn, like through this webinar, I've learned a lot of, for instance, my colleague who was presenting cassava on the rooftops. I remember in my village, I used it even to do that. So I've realized that we webinars or seminars or joining programs, they highlight key issues that we normally think we take for granted, but they become serious. And that's why Guru Med wants to come in through the media and the point of collaborations, so that such things can be on a platform of everyone to see and to know and to change the mind, the way they think. Yes, from there we went to markets. This is one of the this is the Wandegea market. We gave these bags. Some of them we gave for free to market vendors, just to trickle their minds and to show them that the bags that, I mean, the way you handle food, if you handle food badly, the consumer, when the destination where it is going, the consumer gets stomach ache, or the list which my colleague Bernard highlighted of the foodborne diseases, this consumer will not come back to eat your food again. So we said, you just trickling their mind.
You wind up in 30 seconds.
Okay. So this is how it looks inside the bag. It looks inside like it looks like that. And this is the stock of a bag. So what we have designed is a safe food handling bag that can keep food warm at least for 5 hours, and is reusable to alleviate this Vera use and everywhere, and the cleanness. And for us, we are asking for more collaboration with the media and all stakeholders to come on board, and we also join this campaign of food safety food in Uganda. Thank you
very much, Frederick. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been over 2 hours, and we have had a great engagement. So, colleagues, I want very quickly to open up the floor for a few minutes so that we get your feel and you give us why you think 2 + 2 = 5. We are rethinking, and how all the presentations have come in, right from Mr. Hakim, coming into Mr. Bernard, and now Frederick. what could be the role of the media from a rethought approach? Because you are also consumers. Picking up from Hakim, we shouldn't report about only big stories of food safety. But if we report small stories at household functions on the village in over 10,000 villages, then we can bring out the crisis of food safety in the country. So this is why we are making sure that the Food Safety Media League, we continuously engage. And like one of the colleagues has put it, that Shira has said that we need more of such trainings. And it is our aspiration and desire that we make sure we continue with this discussion. So colleagues, the floor is now open. Please raise up your hand. And if you have, okay, Jimmy Komakech, go ahead. As Jimmy unmutes, colleagues, don't forget to register. We need to have all your contacts for administration purposes and for sharing with you all the information that has been shared with us. Please go ahead, Jimmy.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Are you getting me?
Yes, we are.
Right. My name is Jimmy. My name is Jimmy Komakech from Gulu City, but particularly in Amur district.
Yes, please.
I work with radio patches. From Amur, in Amur district, where I come from and where I'm at right now, we've had a lot of concern to do with food poisoning because we've realized that, yeah, there are farmers, and every time after harvest, there's no any other training or no any other knowledge that these farmers are given in order to keep their food safe and safely. And this really affects in one way or the other what we consume in the market.
Yes.
For example, we've had a lot of raining season in the past, rather this first planting season. There were rain, it is wet season. But then you realize that farmers are really not doing much to ensure that the harvest that the crops that they're harvesting from the gardens are protected from food poisoning. And this could come as a result of moisturing. It could also come as a result of maybe not taking good care of storage facility and so on and so forth.
Jimmy,
yes.
May I ask you, now you have the solutions. What have you done? Because you are bringing out the solution to post-harvesting handling. So now that you have that information, how have you used it to guide the farmers? Because you're very knowledgeable about the cause and the solution.
The network is cutting.
Sorry?
The network is cutting, but I was trying to mean that.
Yeah, Jimmy, I
maybe
understand.
As these farmers
Jimmy, I'm not muzzling you to speak, but you have got the solution. As a journalist, we are rethinking. We don't want to do talk shows. We want to have an action. Jimmy, you're knowledgeable. Now I'm asking, with that great information, what actions have you taken?
Yes. Unfortunately, the network is really cutting, but I was trying to mean maybe, yes, farmers need to be trained. Farmers need to be told,
Jimmy,
not only farmers,
thank you very
each and everyone
much.
Who is
Jimmy, you have got that beautiful information. So what actions have you taken as a media person? That's what we want here, so that we rethink. We rethink how to approach it. What action should we take? Because you are a very good facilitator. You have got the solutions for people in Amur.
What I've taken as a passion, as a journalist, it has always been, it has always been telling them why they really need to put those crops safely, because it actually has to do a lot with human health and all those. So
Okay.
if they put it safely,
thank you
it
very
also
much,
increases
Jimmy.
their values in the market.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Welcome.
Yeah. Sheila, please take the floor. Sheila?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate for this timely training.
Yes.
For me, we did a survey and we found out that most people in homes were having, they had this mentality that the food which is not covered, that is on the streets, is the one that is dangerous. But as long as it was in their homes, it was okay. They would just leave food uncovered and all that stuff. So we did podcasts educating people on the dangers of leaving food open. We did community dialogues, and we realized, of course, we need more. We've done several community dialogues where we bring people on a round table and they discuss to us, they tell us their opinions about food safety and food security and how conjoined with malnutrition as well. So it's been like a whirlwind of things we've done, but there's still more that is needed because I'm in a place where malnutrition is such a big issue. And of course, those issues stem from lack of knowledge and information.
But thank you very much, Sheila, because you've put it very well. We need to rethink by intensifying awareness. So thank you very much. Home food versus street food, that is something very key. And we need to look at it, that food at everywhere that is accessed by consumers, whether in homes, markets, and any place. And I like the innovation of, and we will appreciate, I trust we could work together how best we can further bring about food in with regards to nutrition, food safety, to address the malnutrition. I like the podcast approaches, but we could come up with materials that we can share while you're doing the community sensitization. So thank you very much, Shira. That is really rethinking. Yeah, Mr. Rubwama, please, Abdu, thank you. Take on the floor. Mr. Rubwama. In the meantime, Bernard, you can look into the chat and prepare to respond to some of the questions that are in the chat. Mr. Rubwama. Any other person who would like to share as Mr. Rubwama unmutes and prepares? I liked the Jimmy Komakecha, as you were sharing very pertinent aspects that we will need to package in awareness materials. And we share, picking up from Shira, the way she said that they did podcasts and they go out into the communities. These are some of the areas that we need to rethink so that we don't do business as usual. And this is, I'm welcoming all these beautiful sharings that bring out concrete aspects that we need to handle. Colleagues, as we come into the last 20 minutes of our webinar, Mr. Rubwama, are you on board? Or anybody else who has anything to share? Okay. Juma, please, may you take the floor.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think you hear me well.
Yes, please, we do.
Okay, thank you. I'm Suleiman from Zanzibar, Tanzania.
Oh, great.
And I get a Wells presentation, but my concern was the first presentation concerned with the food safety.
Yeah.
We see about the hazard or type of hazard that can raise on food safety with the physical hazard, biologicals, as well as chemical.
Yes.
But currently, there is a issues of allergy.
Allergy.
So I didn't hit allergy. Yes. Some
allergens.
Practitioner, they recognize hazard as a type or another type of hazard in food safety, but I didn't well here in the presentation. So I would like to share. I think it is better to know in food safety, currently many people suffer in food allergy. That's why as a producer, whether street producer or local producer, they are required to label, or they have to say something on the labeling on their packaging about the issues of allergen. Since you can prepare foods concern maybe some certain protein, but there is no information on allergy that may cause a healthy effect to the user. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sulaiman. And you have raised a very pertinent issue. And I know my colleagues in office, as we were developing some materials, allergens were one of the very key aspects coming out. So Sulaiman from Zanzibar, we are greatly honored. So we thought that we were looking at the media lead in the regions of Uganda. Now it has taken on a bigger scope to have a colleague from the United Republic of Tanzania, but from Zanzibar. So you're most welcome, Sulman, and we look forward to engaging you further. So, Mr. Lubwama, your hand is still up. Mr. Lubwama? Okay, Mr. Lubwama is not coming on board. Anybody else who would like to share something on the floor? Anybody else? Okay, can I call in Bernard to take on some of the questions that have been raised? And okay, before Bernard, you come in, Okello Jesus, may you please take the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, greeting from Gulo. Mine is not actually something much. As Bernard is coming to take on the floor, I would like to understand from him one thing. He presented about 1.3 million Ugandans that fall ill after eating contaminated food. So I wanted to understand from him, when was that research done, and is it a recent one? Yeah, and maybe to my fellow colleagues, it's time for us now to rise up and do stories around food safety. And we publicize this because we, the media, we are the ears and the nose of the community. And once we publicize this safety from home to the market and back home, we are going to have something very great. I think that is what I can say. Thank you.
Mr. Mositwa, may you please take the floor before Bernard comes in?
Yeah, thank you, moderator, and thank you, Brother Kim and Bernard, for the presentations. Is it that everything is bad? Don't we have, Bernard, don't we have some good practices that have come out from your studies that need to be scaled up? Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Mositwa. That was a good question. Don't we have some good practices? Is everything bad? So Bernard, please take the floor for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll try to wrap up in the next 8 minutes. And we'll be giving you a way forward. Yes, thank you very much, Frederick. Yes, the campaign, we'll be sharing it with the media. Bernard, please, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, colleagues, for actually, most of them weren't questions. Most of them are compliments in the chat. Someone just says that not even one of us, let's improve on the ways we eat our food and the tea, I mean, how we get our food, and then all of us are not safe. Those are some of the issues that came through. And then David was asking, do we still have the original or traditional seedlings of these fruits in Uganda? As we report stories concerning the dangers of these to our health, when they attack us and report us of decampaigning their business. Yeah, very interesting. So one is that we have been fighting a war over the years that for you guys who are in media, you have known that the powerful companies that are dealing with the seed sector, they want to actually own the seeds so that even for you to access the seed, you're able to, maybe you have to have a patent or something. This is something that many of the organizations led by Pelham in Uganda have been fighting for, to make sure that our seeds are promoted. That's why these days you can be able to have so many farmers plant seeds, but you cannot replant them in the next season. So that requires a lot of advocacy for us to make sure that we fight for the indigenous seed sector, and then the seeds are able to be accessible by our people in Uganda. I mean, that is a fight that is already ongoing. I'm not sure, I didn't know that most of you might not be having this information, but there's already a lot of publications that have come in about the seed sector, promoting the indigenous seed sector, to make sure that people have access to the original indigenous seeds, and then we can be able to have them over the seasons. Unlike the current situation where every season a farmer has to buy seed. So it's already a very big issue to do with food safety, but also the food sovereignty in Africa. It is already something that the colleagues at Pelham and ESAF and AFSA are already fronting. And we can always provide more information about it, but it is something that we want to promote as much as we can, make noise about, so that we can be able to promote our indigenous seed. If we don't do that, then we can lose the food sovereignty. So it's not about promoting business, it's about sustaining lives of our people, but also keeping our indigenous food systems active. The colleague was also asking whether everything is bad, where the good practices and all that. So one is that I must say that over the years, we've been trying to make sure that we profile the good practices that are actually happening in the country towards improving food safety, which perhaps would be our next show, trying to look at how far has the country gone. Today, we are looking at, we just wanted to aim at to show you what is actually happening around your areas. That's why the photos, we're picking them from all the regions of the country to make sure that we widen the scope of awareness creation. However, some bit of efforts have been happening here and there, quite a few of them though, and the rate at which the positives are actually scoring is really low. That's why you may not find a lot of stuff to document for good practices, especially at the local governments, at the lower local level down there. So for example, in Uganda now we have a machine that can actually work on aflatoxins, but it's only one in Soroti. So the whole country has only one. So in our next episode, we shall be able to profile what is actually working out well. There's been a lot of campaigns on aflatoxins happening in the country. Unfortunately, we have not registered any reductions in terms of aflatoxin progress. But there's a lot of work happening by different civil society organizations trying to support government to improve the status quo of the country, but we have more work to do than what has been done. And one of the other innovations on board, we are now, a team is coming up with something called AflaSafe. AflaSafe will be a biosolution to prevent aflatoxins in food, but it is still at the phase of research and pre-testing in some bit of gardens here and there. So it is not yet on wider scale. So a lot of innovations are now building up slowly, which in our next episode, we shall be able to share with all of us, just to see how far we in terms of reducing the burden. But also the other unfortunate bit, the disease burden keeps on increasing and keeps on getting related to food safety. So we have a lot of work to undertake. I promise that the next time we catch up, we shall be able to have a profile of the different innovations on board, and then you can be able to have them. One of the other successes, government of course keeps on developing policies, standards and all that, but the challenge is the enforcement of these things is not happening. So it becomes very difficult for us to relay them. But anyway, those are some of them. The other question is about the 1.3 million Ugandans. Now, data is collected every month. So every month, the government of Uganda has what we call the District Health Information System, the DHIS2. So every district puts in the diseases at the hospitals. So there is always a report consolidated per month from each of the district hospitals in your districts. And that is the source of the data that gives us all these statistics on annual basis. So every year, there is always a report that is published on the aggregated numbers. If you look at last year, they were still reporting 1.3. If you go to the website of MOH, you'll find the 1.3 million Ugandans as the benchmark for the consolidated non-communicable diseases and also communicable diseases related to food safety. So this is the current figure that we have, the latest. And also I was in a meeting with MOH last week, and this is the same figure they were quoting. So probably we're waiting for the new report for us to pick a new figure. But this is, for now, this is what we have. Someone was talking about allergens. Yes. Now, scholars, you know, every single day or year, we keep on coming up with researches that actually validate so many things. It is true that allergens have now been added on the list of food safety hazards, but of course, also you'll learn that allergens can also be coming from the other hazards. So for example, there are foods that you'll eat, but because of their physical contamination, they come along with an allergen. So whereas scientists have come up with allergens as a classified, a different class of hazards, well, I think we shall just update. But this is also true. Thank you, the colleague from Zanzibar. We are cognizant of the allergens as well. I didn't see any other question apart from people saying that I think we need to improve the food safety across board. We need to do a lot of work. We need to do a lot of awareness, sensitization, using different mechanisms, podcasts, news. We need to report more about food safety so that everyone understands and knows about it. And I think we take that very seriously. And we pray that you guys take the mantle from here, sensitize our people until we achieve the best we can. Someone was saying that farmers should actually be sensitized on food safety. Yes, we need more of such trainings. We can always avail these trainings. We can always avail the materials. Someone says that there should be a program designated for this food safety in our district. Please, we are giving that to you. This is David Anyanzo. This is a very good recommendation, and I hope that the colleagues can pick up that. Komekech says, let us do this once again more frequently. I think we can be able to, for us, we shall be available. We can always provide this. Identifying gaps and writing informative stories about these gaps is in the food sector is something that can create awareness. If Namugabi, that is very good of you, and I hope you can be able to see now more stories coming up. Okot says it is the role of the media to educate the public, especially on food safety. Thank you. Please pick it up from there. You have the materials, you have well-researched information with you. You should be able to start there. Okay, those are the ones I think that came through. Others are compliments. For now, I think I can pause it at that. Thank you so much, Henry, for the opportunity to respond.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Mr. Lugwama, you are back. Can I give you 30 seconds?
Yes. Sorry for disturbance before.
No, it's not disturbance. So go ahead, please.
Yeah, I had a problem here. The issue was I'm trying to recommend something. If you can have some kind of affirmative action.
Yes, please.
Or whereby all media people who are reporting these stories concerning food security on these people are very on the streets, if they can be compiled onto a certain platform, there's some kind of recognizing those people. It can increase basically the competition and awareness. If you can recognize some stories which have been outstanding and the reporting which has been done after a certain period of time, instead of now discussing here, but if we have a platform where everyone can submit those stories, we evaluate them and realize their impact. It can make some sense. also create some sensitization among the public. I think that was my main concern, and I want, if possible, can be taken upon.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Mr. Rwama, it is not a concern, but all disturbance, but it is a positive, and that is one of the elements of rethinking. So it is like you've led us to open get the cat out of the bag. That was the initiative under the Food Safety Media League, that we start writing stories in the region, and we get those stories onto the platform, and then we start getting champions and ambassadors within the media fraternity to push. But we hope what you have just raised is key, and it's something that we are going to push forward. That's the intention of this initiative. We are starting it small, and we are going to continue with it. This is the first series in the number of webinars. Like you have said, next month we are bringing you on board onto another webinar, and we would wish to do it either bi-monthly or bi-weekly, so that every 2 weeks we get a new product and we share it with you. We collect consumer complaints from from four regions, and we wish to share those reports with you to facilitate generating of content for reporting. So, Mr. Rwama, you have indirectly let the cat out of the bag, but we'll be sharing with you the information under the Food Safety Media League to make sure that regions report on food safety issues in their area, and then we get champions for food safety. We do recognize each and every one of you. So today you are the inaugural food safety champion and media champions for the initiative. So let's keep together and make sure that all goes well. But in the next 50 minutes, I would like to thank you all. Please make sure that you have registered. We need your email and telephone contact. We are going to share the presentation. We will be sharing some little data with you for having taken off time to join us. So this has been one of the last activities with regards to food safety in the month, and now we are going to we'll be winding up tomorrow with our Humanist TV Saturday series. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you very much. We are going to keep in touch, and I would like to thank you all in West Nile, Gulu, Mbale, Central Region, and Western Region, and Southern Region. All the best. Cheers. And looking forward to our next engagement.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much, colleagues.